So, TED Talks can be categorized into two preferred goals or outcomes. The first goal is the pursuit of the American dream. Individual growth, namely the bootstrap myth, is what the American dream centers around, and TED Talks seek to inspire self-improvement in all walks of life, professional and otherwise. For example, personal motivation.
Unseen intrinsic drive, the drive to do things for their own sake, the drive to do things because they matter. And here's the best part. Here's the best part. We already know this. The science confirms what we know in our hearts.
Physical health.
The junk food industry is really great at pressing our pleasure buttons and figuring out what's the most pleasurable. But I think we can use their techniques and apply them to healthy food. To give just one example, we love crunchiness, mouthfeel. So I've tried to incorporate crunchiness into a lot of my recipes, throw in some sunflower seeds, and you can almost trick yourself into thinking you're eating Doritos.
And money management.
We see spending on other people has a bigger return for you than spending on yourself. And so I'll just say, I think if you think money can't buy happiness, you're not spending it right. The implication is not, you should buy this product instead of that product, and that's the way to make yourself happier. It's in fact that you should stop thinking about which product to buy for yourself and try giving some of it to other people instead.
These are all topics that TED uses to inspire personal motivation and personal growth. The focus is on the improvement of the individual. Oftentimes, however, outside influences are not taken into account. What about those areas of the world in which healthy food isn't available? How can one expect to buy happiness by spending their money on other people when they don't even have enough to put a roof over their heads or food in their mouths? Many of these TED Talks are geared towards a very specific audience in the pursuit of self-improvement, without taking into account many of the larger issues the rest of the world is facing. However, many of these TED Talks do challenge the standards that society has set in place.
In an ideological conflict, there can be no truce, no draw, no compromise, only victory or defeat. But rather than making war inevitable, by viewing this as ideological, we would be wise to seek ways to make peace possible. Iran and Israel's conflict is a new phenomenon, only a few decades old in a history of 2,500 years. And precisely because its roots are geopolitical, it means that solutions can be found. Compromises can be struck, however difficult it yet may be.
I wonder what the future will hold. The technology will advance even further. But I can still remember my mum saying 60 years ago, "Remember, darling, you'll never be able to read the print with your fingers." I'm so glad that the interaction between Braille transcribers, volunteer readers, and passionate inventors has allowed this dream of reading to come true for me and for blind people throughout the world.
This path, if continued, guarantees that we will pass tipping points, leading to ice sheet disintegration that will accelerate out of control of future generations. A large fraction of species will be committed to extinction. And increasing intensity of droughts and floods will severely impact breadbaskets of the world, causing massive famines and economic decline.
Calls for peace overseas, technology and its place in society, and climate change are all examples of call to actions that TED Talks initiates for a larger change in society as a whole. However, it's important to keep in mind that TED Talks is a limited platform. The two goals that TED promotes do not truly offer an open environment for speakers of all agendas or walks of life. TED Talks will not allow speakers who may be considered too controversial and have been known to turn down speakers whose ideas may push people's buttons. While viewing the various TED Talks that are available, you need to keep in mind that the status quo is a defining feature in all of the speeches. Big, important, controversial topics aren't always promoted in TED Talks because they may inspire the viewers to make changes in the status quo. According to TED, change is good, but radical thinkers will have to find a different platform on which to express their ideas. This quote was written and taken from an article on Infowars.com that addresses the censorship of TED Talks. Recently, a TED Talk was given by scientist Graham Hancock, and his ideas about consciousness and its place in science was banned. The talk was uploaded but quickly removed from the website. Another scientific speaker, Rupert Sheldrake, was also banned from expressing ideas against materialism in science. Mike Adams, the author of the article, asserts that while Graham and Sheldrake's ideas may be out there, scientific advancement is all about thinking outside the box and pushing the boundaries of what we consider fact. He asserts that the censorship of these TED Talks is an abomination to the scientific community. He believes TED Talks to be committing, quote, scientific racism for discriminating against ideas that are in the minority. Whether or not you agree with the ideas that these scientists were expressing, you cannot deny their right to express them. They have a right to voice their discoveries and opinions just as anyone else does. We are not denying that for those seeking inspiration, TED Talks is a good place to look. Many of the videos are incredibly inspiring, thought-provoking, and motivational for those of us whom they are geared towards. Many really are ideas worth spreading. However, you shouldn't stop at TED Talks. Reading books, for example, where the platform is open and the status quo is not necessarily being protected, is extremely important. I cannot imagine that Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, Mary Prince and her slave narrative, or Mary Wollstonecraft and her vindication of the rights of women, would have been allowed on the TED Talk stage if such a thing had existed in their day and age. Even contemporary authors, such as Margaret Atwood or Christopher Hitchens, have envelope-pushing ideas in their books that need that particular format in order to thrive. There are also many great websites and blogs that provide alternatives to TED, and that they host less restrictive environments to share ideas and generate discussions, such as these. So, while TED Talks are great and our overall goal is not to discourage you from watching them, be sure to broaden your horizons beyond them. Explore other mediums which allow for an even broader range of topics. Don't be afraid to expand your thinking and challenge the status quo.